Howdy. All right, welcome back to another TeleDynes live stream. Today we're going to go over another guitar technique, some more a song breakdown, and some more music theory. Continue on where we left off from last week. Okay, so as you saw, it's straight versus swing. So this is with eighth notes. This is something that it's crucial, especially if you're playing anything rockabilly, even blues, and of course, obviously swing. The eighth notes and the way that they're played, there are two different ways to play the swing feel, or two main different ways, and we'll just focus on those two for now. That is the dotted eighth, 16th, and the quarter note triplet, eighth note triplet. So we'll talk about those in a minute, but I want to talk about the obviously the straight eighths versus the swinging eighths. And what a lot of people will do, and I've noticed it, and this is the reason why I bring it up, and I've mentioned it before, is that, and I believe I even have a little short on it too, where you have straight eighths like this. Right? And then to swing it, it would be same tempo. And the swing sounds a little bit slower, right? But it's still if we were playing quarter notes, right? If we play eighth notes that are straight, and then if we're going to swing it, kind of go back and forth between so you can hear the differences. So when you're playing rockabilly and you're playing these walking bass lines, you want to play that with your pick. You don't just want to rely on the delay to go and then have the delay hit after and just play quarter notes. I've seen some people do that when they play, like a Carl Perkins tune or whatever, or any of that old stuff, or even if you're just playing the rhythm itself. You're just playing a rock and roll 6 flat 7 thing like this. And if for some reason people have a natural tendency, at least in my experience when I've played bass with other guitar players, that if it's straight eighth notes, they don't seem to have too much of a problem playing all the eighth notes. But when then something starts to swing, they tend to just, and they don't. Shaking the camera there. And part of that technique to get that sound, at least what I like, is I'm dragging the pick between those two strings and then dragging the pick back up. And palm muting, of course. Finish the progression. So the best way to practice that is with eighth notes. It's easy to just play all downstrokes, or straight eighth notes. It's easy to play all downstrokes. You can go up and down. And it's good to practice both. But with a swing, you definitely want to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. You don't want to just try to play that all downstrokes. That's going to be very fatiguing on your wrist. So I'll try to do it with going just all downstrokes. Keeping that up for an entire song would be extremely fatiguing. So it's better to just go down, up, down, up. Yeah, so that's something if you're not familiar with it or if you're not used to it, it's definitely something to practice if you want to play, just playing the rhythm under the vocals, or even when you're playing a solo or something. And then when you're playing a bunch of different notes together, you're going to play, you're still going to be swinging. You're just playing every eighth note is a different note. Well, almost every eighth note is going to be a different note. Where, and the same thing with the straight notes, straight eighth too. And you can always throw triplets into whether you're playing straight or usually it's 16th notes written like that when you're playing straight, but it depends on where it falls in the beat, really. So again, the trick is just practicing, going back and forth, and try to play a scale. That way you're also going up the neck as well. You're going between from the bottom string to the top string. And every note gets 2 beats. Until you want to, give every note 1 beat, right? 2 beats and then every beat. And going back and forth between strings can be very, very helpful in your rhythm playing. And the same thing with chords too. It doesn't just apply to walking bass lines. If you're playing even open chords as opposed to straight, right? Heard that, right? Straight versus swing. And I've been primarily playing every note on the swing. I've been playing everything as an eighth note. So there's another swing form which is quarter eighth eighth, quarter eighth eighth, and that's that beginning to rock this town like that. Just like on a ride cymbal, pop, 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 And so you can, usually when you're playing rhythm like that, it tends to be every eighth note, but every song is different. So depending on what you're playing, which leads me into the different feels for the swing. Primarily the 2 different ones, the dotted 8th 16th and the quarter note triplet, eighth note triplet. It's very subtle, but there is a slight feel difference. And the easiest way to describe it is the dotted 8th 16th sound more staccato, almost like because the note is not as long. It's not leading into the other note as quickly. Or it's not carrying over to the other note. It doesn't sound like it is. It sounds like it's more abrupt. So I'll over accentuate it here so you can get the idea. But a dotted 8th 16th would be like, where the quarter note triplet would be, It's just a little bit, and a lot of sometimes it's pushed a little bit in the feel. And even when you're playing the quarter eighth, that's where you can really hear it, right? As opposed to the triplet feel. Just a little bit, like I said, more staccato. I prefer the quarter note triplet feel. It's just more smooth, and that's really where the swing beat is based off of. An example that you might be familiar with when you hear that within something that's straight is a march, right? Everybody's familiar probably with the theme from Star Wars, the opening crawl title. And the song is in straight eighths until you get to the bridge, and it walks back down to go back up to the intro. Da 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 da, right? That right there can be, I've seen it written as usually it's dotted 8/16, dotted 8/16. And from what I've read and what I understand, that it's easier to get it's hard to get strings to swing like that. But when you write it out with a dotted 8/16, it's a little bit easier. And you can hear that. It's like a swing over the top. They're swinging, and it's like a march basically. So it is more of a marching feel than it is an actual swing. But if you play with different players and you play with different drummers, you'll hear somebody on the ride play that da 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 da, and it's much more staccato. And sometimes it's depending on the groove. Slower tunes, it's not so bad. You can like a blues shuffle, like a shuffle kind of feel. It feels more at home there. But when you're trying to play something a little faster swing, like say 185 tempo, like a Rock This Town or something like that, it becomes a little harder to. They kind of fight each other a little bit. All right, so I get that'll pretty much do it for that that segment on swing versus straight. Just keep recommend just keep practicing rhythms, chords, palm muting chords, playing and individual notes, as well as scales, just to get used to that down, up, and not rely on the delay. And if it is swinging like that, you want to play that with all of those eighth notes, especially if you're playing with an electric bass player, because electric bass players typically they're not going to play the eighth notes. They can. They play with a pick, or if they good enough with their fingers, they can play that the swing in eighths. But if they're that low of a register, when you start putting out too many notes close together like that, it can get a little messy, get a little muddy. So it's good to have the guitar doing that juxtaposed to the electric bass. If you have an upright player, they're clicking, they're slapping, right? So you're getting the eighth note is implied with the slap. It's still quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, but the and, 1 and 2 and, the and is the click, right? Or the other click, right? So you're pulling the string on an upright. It's 2 clicks. Click, slap, click, slap, click, slap. And you bounce it, dunk, 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 and that's creating an eighth note feel, along with if the drummer is playing a train, kind of eighth notes on a swinging train on the snare, and then you got the guitar doing that. I mean, that's the rock, the rockabilly trio sound, right? All right, that'll do it for this segment. On to song breakdown. Okay. Just getting my Guitar Pro program going. Okay. So I don't know if I've gone over this one before. Normally, I'm not going to go over leads, but in this case, I did because there's nothing else going on in the beginning. And I'll play this beginning for you in case you are unfamiliar with it. Right. So it walks up to the 5, goes down to the 4, to the 1. Stop. Some versions stop, some keep going. We usually stop, but it's up to, interpretation. And so the structure of the song is really simple, like a lot of these rockabilly tunes. It goes to the 5 first. So instead of starting on the 1 that a lot of tunes will start on, it goes to the 5. And it's a rumba type feel. So it's and you just kind of play that little rake or however you want to play the rhythm. I like to when I play these songs, and I never stick to the same inversion of a chord. I'll go to B here. Just play around with all the different inversions of a chord, just to keep it interesting for myself and not get too bored. But just kind of going back and forth, going back down the guitar, back down the strings, and then it goes to the 1. Back to the 5. Back to the 1. And then we do a walk up. You can play those quarter notes or eighth notes like we were talking about earlier. I just wrote them out as quarter to be simple for right here. And it's just a chromatic walk after the first note. Open E to a 2, an F sharp, G, G sharp, up to A. You're just walking the line up to the 4 chord. And this is the first time we see the 4 chord other than descending in the very beginning. Back to the 1. Back to the 5. And right here, where it would stop again, you would go back to the beginning. And that's what can be great about some of these songs when you're if you're starting a band or if you just go to a jam or something like that. They're circular. You don't have to worry about crazy signature riffs. I mean, there you have the intro in something like this, but it's something that fairly easy that most people are going to pick up on without too much trouble. And you can just play the same thing around and around. It's easy to just say, "Hey, it's a 1-4-5," and it goes 5, 4, and then we go to a bridge and it goes 4, 5, or 4, 1, 5 again. So it's a fairly easy progression, and it's still 1-4-5. It's just a different order than your typical 12-bar blues. It's not a 12-bar blues, but any band with any that has a decent ear to it, or any players that are going to have decent ear that's playing in a jam, should be able to pick up on something like this pretty easily. And it's a different feel, as opposed to a lot of the times it's mostly, if you do go to a jam, it's going to be centered around blues. So people are going to either be playing shuffles, or they're going to be playing a straight rock, or 12-bar slow blues, you know, something like that. And it's nice to throw a little something a little bit different in there and throw a rumba. And of course, at the very end, it ends with cha cha cha. So you play that main riff again. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then of course, a solo is going to go around a verse form and a bridge form. And yeah, it's a nice tune. It's a tune we learned early on in the band, probably 10 years ago now. Um, and we still play it. A lot of tunes, you know, you'll start in a band and you'll play them for a little while, and then you'll get tired of them and cut them out, or they may not get the audience response that you were looking for, and so you move on to something else. But this one always goes over pretty well. People like to dance to it because it's different. Again, it's not just your same beats. That's one thing I always like to do, is switch up the rhythm and switch up the feel and the groove over the course of a night. You don't want to hammer them over the head with the same exact feel all night long. Um, it's fine for like an hour and a half show or something like that. But when you're playing 3 hours or more, you need some variation. All right. Well, that one was pretty straightforward. Um, Next week will be, I think the next couple that I have planned are going to be pretty straightforward. There's one coming up that's a little bit more complex. Maybe that's next week too. I can't remember. I'm going to do a jazz tune. It's not really jazz, but I guess it's more of a jump blues tune called Symphonia B, and it's by Calvin Bowes. It's an old West Coast swing jump blues, somewhere in that genre, and um, it's a little bit more interesting than just your typical 1-4-5, and it's an A flat too, even better. All right, so for now, that'll do it for that segment. These breakdowns usually go pretty fast, especially on something simple like this, and we'll go to music theory. Okay, here we are. Chords. Major chords. So we went over the scales last week, and that is, again, it's the foundation of all Western music, and the major scale is your primary focus. Learn that in all the keys, and that will help you with your modes, with altered scales like blues scales and um, whatever else, natural minors and augmented fourths, and so all these other things, um, as they are displacements of major scales. That's what modes are: displacement of major scales, which we'll be going over again in another video. I think it's next week, but for now, we're going to go over the major chords and how they're basically built, and an easy way to build them if you're unsure how to do it. Most of you are familiar, if you again with the major scale. You've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, repeating the octave. We'll start with this the key of C, so it's easy. We don't have to worry too much about accidentals and that sort of thing. But the formula, or the scale degrees, every note is broken down into a number scale degree: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 being the octave. So a major chord is going to be a 1, 3, and a 5, or a triad. And so you can always, there are two ways to do it. We'll do it horizontal, and then we'll do it vertical. So you can see. Let me get quartered the whole note here. When you go this way, you see in the scale this way, you might learn it. One way you can learn it is to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There you go. Those are your notes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then you can start on another. That would be a C chord. Because the first note, that's your root. And then you have your third, and you have your fifth, because those are the scale degrees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you go to the next note, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's the same scale degrees. In this case, we're in the key of C, so it's not the 1, 3, and 5, because it's related to the entire scale. So it's the 2, 4, and the 6. But it's still the same count. You're still counting up the same way. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But because of this, if you remember this from last week, the half step, the third is not 2 whole tones above. It's only a tone and a half. So you end up with a diminished third, or a flat third, a minor third. So that would end up making this chord a D minor. And that's what naturally happens within a major scale. Same thing when we go to E. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. E, G, B. Right? And that's an E minor. An E major would have a G sharp in it. It'd have the third would be higher. Again, because of the half step here. So that's how you go horizontally if you're going up the scale like this. But an easier way to figure out the chords is just stack the notes. And the easiest way to do this is you have your major scale, and you can do this in any key. This isn't just for C, but anything you want to do. And if you have a computer program like Finale or Guitar Pro, you can also do it like that. And you don't have to, it'll automatically put the accidentals as long as you have the key signature here. I don't. I have everything here in no key setting, so it's like everything's in concert. So you go C, and you just, when you add a note on the top, again, this is applying to major chords. When you add a note on the top, you just go line. If it's on a line, if it starts on a line, add the next line above it and the next line above it. If it's on a space, and just keep going. So you end up going C, E, G, just like here, C, E, G. Same thing. And you don't have to count and do all this. Just stack the notes. Same thing here with D. D minor. Saddest of all keys. Just keep stacking. You get a G there, right? We're back to C. And I know it might seem a little basic for some of you, but I wanted to start at the very beginning, and we're going to continue this series until I can't go any further. So that's the easiest way to understand the major chords, right? And we'll get into extensions later. I'll give a little bit of a preview here. If you want to go to the next, if you want to go to the next step, you just add another chord, add another note on the top. C major 7. D minor 7. These are barely extensions, right? Because it's all still diatonic, meaning within the scale. F natural on top of the G, because if we were in the key of G, the F would be sharp, but we're in the key of C, so the F isn't sharp naturally within the key. So when you stack these notes on top, you naturally get a G7th. You naturally get a dominant 7th chord. And this would be, of course, the Mixolydian scale and so on and so forth. Which essentially, that's for modes. We'll get into that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. And you just keep going, right? Minor 7. What is it? B. Yeah, B minor. B minor flat 5. Yeah, B minor flat 5 with a C on the top, so flat 9. A very weird. It's the weird chord at the end. Well, that's a jazzier version of it. Well, I didn't have the guitar on there. Starts to get jazzy. The more you stack, the more complicated the chord gets, obviously. And if you were to continue to stack these notes, you would get, you'd add a D up here, you'd get a 9, and so on and so forth, and we'll just keep going. So we'll get into extensions in another lesson, but this can be applied to every single key. Same thing, and it's an easy way to voice a chord within the scale. And it's good to understand all of this, because this applies to later when we get into harmonizing melodies and what's called four-way close, which is a type of harmony for typical type of harmony for vocals, instruments, that sort of thing. Now we have the minor key, and if I'm in, it's the same thing still applies. If you're in A minor, we're still in C, right? Because it's the relative minor. So if we were to stack these notes, zoom in a little bit more. There we go. Try to stack these notes, A minor. We end up with the same. I wrote it an octave higher, but it's the same. We end up with the same thing. And A minor way up there. You got G, B, and D. So that's one way you can figure out the chord. Again, just stack the chords up. If you're in if you're in E flat minor, same deal. If we're in C flat, or sorry, not C flat, C minor, then you would be in E flat, right? So you would have to, I didn't put the key here, so I would have to know, oh, that's a B flat, that's an A flat, and why am I blanking on this? An E flat, a B flat, and an A flat. So if I'm writing in concert, so there's no key, I would have to make sure that that third is diminished. Now, I have all these things memorized in my head, but and over time, I went over this so many times in music course where I just wrote them out. The first thing I had to do was just write all of these scales out by hand in every key and harmonic, minors, majors. It drills it into your head, so you know exactly. So when you go B flat, you go, oh, okay, that's a B flat and an E flat. And when you know A flat, oh, that's an A flat, an E flat, an E flat, A flat, of course, and a D flat. So you know right off the top of your head what the accidentals are going to be. Right? E flat. This would have to be um, minor. And the trick is too, I did forget to mention this. When you end up writing this out, as you will see next week if you tune in, um, we'll get into modes. This will be the sixth of C. The formula that we talked about, how the half steps are between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8 with a major scale. Well, with a minor scale, it's between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. Now, again, you can just take the 6 and write up from there, which leads right into the modes. All this stuff kind of goes together. So we'll probably revisit this a little bit next week too, because everything does obviously relate to each other. It's just going one step at a time to kind of get the foundation down before we get into more complicated things. Otherwise, when we start adding extensions and chord substitutions and all of that stuff, it's not going to make any sense. So again, if I was in C minor, I would have to move this there. Just for visualization. G. Whoops. Things touchy. Um, G, E flat, D. We can see where the half steps are, right? C, D, and then we're half step to E flat, whole step up to F, another whole step to G, and then we got another half step, so we're A flat. That's where we go to B flat, because remember, we're in C minor, not C major. I'll change this. Easier to delete it and make a new one. There we go. And so on. So you've got C minor first. And so we went over Stray Cat Strut last week. But it's not about the song so much as it is about this typical descending line. So it's going 1, flat 7, 4, 5. or not 4, 6, 5. But we're playing off of the we're playing off of these playing dominant chords. So we're substituting all of that stuff. So it doesn't really matter. It's really the bass line. Doesn't sound as good unless you play that dominant. So it's mixing and matching. Stuff like that is mixing the major with the minor. And that's what makes it really cool, right? So, but to understand where the separation is important before we get to mixing things up like that. But the formula still stays the same no matter what. It's still, the half step's still going to be there. And however you name the chords or call them, or scale degrees are still going to be the same, regardless of whether you're in major or whether you're in minor. You're going to have the half step between the 2 and the 3 and the 5 and the 6 for the minor, and the 3 and the 4 and the 7 and 8 for the major. And that's where, depending on whether you want to call the C minor as the 1 or you want to call it the 6, it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of it's just a naming convention for being able to explain these things, and also to write it down so other people can read it as well, right? All right, so that's hopefully that's, for those of you who are interested in the theory, hopefully that helps, and we can start with that good foundation. And of course, I'm going to be taking these videos and making them into individual videos that I'm going to release on the channel, so you can just watch. If you just want to do the theory segment without having to find it in the live stream later, you can do that. And same thing with the song breakdowns and the the guitar techniques as well. Can't remember my own my own form here. So that pretty much covers it for music theory this week. I just wanted to go over the chord structure, the basic triad structure. And the same thing applies here too when you get to the other, you want to make extensions. It's just that it's a C minor major 7, which is a weird chord, right? Not very pleasant. But you hear that in a lot of like ending chord type stuff, right? Almost augmented. Almost like an augmented. Except it's got that major 7th interval. So yeah, I guess that'll do it for this week for the music theory. I'll go back to the full screen for a little bit, and then next week we'll continue going with another guitar technique. I forget what we have for that one, but it's, what do I have for next week? We're going to go over chord rhythms and palm muting and comping and stuff like that. So how to play different how to play like a piano, basically, when you're playing rhythm on a guitar instead of just playing strumming with a pick. And maybe some harmonics, artificial and natural harmonics. And these are just basic techniques. Again, I'm starting from the very beginning and building up with little techniques, so we try not to miss anything. And again, if you guys want me to cover anything, if I skip over something or I get something wrong, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know, and I will cover it on the next live stream. And yeah, I appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, of course. That always helps the channel. We've got some I've got another video here coming up either today or tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure when. I'll get it up there. It's pretty much done. I just have to make a thumbnail for it. It should be up either later today. And it's just about 5 tips on the guitar. Not playing techniques, just more logistics, I guess you could say, and a few techniques, but mostly just logistics and things to worry about, or if you're just starting out on the guitar, little things that you might overlook. And yeah, we'll go over modes next week, and the week after that, we'll go over intervals. Super important. Intervals are another way to think about harmony without having to just think of chords, right? They're not necessarily just locked into a major chord and say, well, everything in the melody note has to be in that chord, or has to be really closely related to that chord. It's really more about intervals with the harmonies. So, and then we'll get into that at that point. So until then, I also have another question and answer video that's coming out. I've gone back through all of the comments. I don't know if I mentioned it last week or not, but I'm just going to answer them all in a video, so we don't have to. So I don't try not to forget those of you who have reached out and asked me questions, and I might have missed a few. Until next time, have a good week. Thanks again, Richard, for hanging out, and I appreciate it. I did have a pretty decent week, and next week we got the holiday. So for those of you who celebrate it, happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you on the flip side of that. Until then, have a good one.